Hello, kindergarten, and happy Friday. We are going to read our last story of the week, and our story today is called Piggies. So this whole week, we have been trying to figure out whether or not our stories are fiction or nonfiction. Again, we've been trying to figure out whether our stories are fiction and nonfiction. And we're going to do that with a story called Piggies today. But let's remind ourselves of what fiction and nonfiction mean. Remember, a fiction story is a story that is made up. It is not real. It comes from the author's imagination. And the author creates lots of characters. Sometimes it's people, sometimes it's talking animals, sometimes it's talking objects. Sometimes the author even makes up creatures that are not real, but they are pretend. We know that we see lots of illustrations, and we also see lots of different crazy or cool settings throughout the story. So we know that a fiction story is not real. It is made up. But we know that a nonfiction story is a story that is real. It teaches us lots of different facts, maybe about animals, maybe about music, maybe about sports, maybe about other people. And we know that in a nonfiction story, we oftentimes see lots of photographs. And we also see lots of different text features, like we might see captions or a table of contents to show us where the different parts of the information are located in that particular book. So again, we want to be able to distinguish between fiction and nonfiction. Remember, nonfiction is real, fiction is not real. Nonfiction is real, fiction is not real. So today, we're going to figure out whether or not Piggies is fiction or nonfiction. So let's take a moment to look at the cover. What do you see on the cover? Well, on the cover, I see a pig that looks like it's on a finger or a thumb, and it's eating some watermelon. I see another pig reading, another pig laying in a hammock, another pig looking like it's about to dive into water. So as I'm looking at this cover, I'm thinking, this definitely does not look like it's nonfiction. It doesn't look like it's going to give me information or facts. It looks to me like it's fiction, but I don't know that for sure. I have to read the whole story in order to be sure that I found my evidence that the story is fiction. But I'm going to guess this story is fiction. So the story again is called Piggies, and it's by Audrey Wood and Don Wood. They're the authors and illustrators of the story. Let's get started. I've got two fat little piggies. So again, we know sometimes that when we're singing songs or listening to stories, sometimes our fingers are referred to as piggies. And we see some pigs standing on this person's thumbs. Two smart little piggies. So we see that they're smart because one of them has a telescope and the other one is reading books. Two long piggies. So what do you think so far? Do you think the story is fiction or nonfiction? Is it teaching you something? Or are we seeing different characters and different settings? Are we seeing things that are made up or pretend? What do you think? Two silly piggies. So if you look at the silly piggies, what are they doing to make themselves so silly? Well, I notice one of them is upside down and almost looks kind of like they're in a clown costume. And this one also looks like they're in a clown costume, being very silly, holding up this thing over here. And two wee little piggies. Wee is just another word for small or tiny. And the word wee is often used in countries like Scotland. Sometimes they're hot little piggies. So what do you think so far? Do you think this story is fiction or nonfiction? Remember, nonfiction means that it's real and there's information and facts and photographs. And fiction means that it's made up, it's not real, and there's lots of characters and sometimes pretend characters. Do you think that this is made up or do you think that this is real? Stop and think for a second. And sometimes they're cold, little piggies. So it looks like this person's hands, they're wearing their gloves. Sometimes they're clean, little piggies. So what do you think is going to be next? If they're clean in this picture, what do you think is going to be next? You probably guessed it. And sometimes they're dirty, little fingers. Looks like someone's been playing in the mud. Sometimes they're good, little piggies. So if they're good little piggies on this page, what do you think they're going to be on the next page? Ooh, but not at bedtime. You probably guessed it. That's when they skip down my tummy. So I guess they're not good at bedtime. And they dance on my toes. Then run away and hide. So what do you think so far? Do you think this story is fiction or nonfiction, and why? Well, as we've been reading this story, we've noticed that there have been pigs standing on someone's fingers. Now, we don't know who the person is, but we know in real life, we cannot have pigs standing on our fingers. So we know in real life, pigs can't do that. They're much too big to be in our hands. So do you think this is fiction or nonfiction? Well, you probably guessed it. It's definitely fiction. But I'm wondering, how are these pigs that we're seeing in our story different from pigs in real life? How are they different from pigs in real life? I put them together all in a row for 2 fat kisses, 2 smart kisses, 2 long kisses, 2 silly kisses, and 2 wee kisses goodnight. So again, we definitely know this story is fiction, but why is it fiction? Well, we know it's fiction because we know that pigs cannot stand on your fingers in real life. That does not make sense. And even though our characters were not talking, we can look back in the story and we can see that they're wearing clothes. And we know that animals in real life do not wear clothes. That's not something that animals do. And animals cannot live on your fingers. That is not possible. So pigs in real life, they usually live on farms and they can get pretty big. So that's how we know this story is fiction. Even though our characters are not talking, we know they're not real because they're wearing clothes and they're standing on these fingers doing all sorts of things that we know pigs do not do. Pigs don't read, pigs don't wear clothes, pigs don't play basketball or carry around ropes. So we know this story is not real. It's fiction. It's definitely fiction. Well, alrighty, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this story called Piggies. And great job this week figuring out which stories are fiction and nonfiction. So really keep that in mind. What is a fiction story and what is a nonfiction story? And how do you know? Again, what's a fiction story? What's a nonfiction story? And how do you know? Well, great job today, you guys. Have a wonderful, happy Friday. Thank you for working so hard. And I'll see you later. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.